Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are absolutely dismantling a massive misconception in the AI economy. Right now, there's this whole ecosystem of middlemen out there passing AI tokens from massive language models down to the developers who are building the next generation of apps. And most people just look at them and see a simple, low-value tech distribution channel. But today, the data is going to show us why that view is entirely backwards. We are going to reveal how a simple AI token relay station is actually the foundation for a highly lucrative virtual financial institution.
All right, let's get right into it with a pretty stark number, 5 to 15%. Ouch, right? That is the miserable, razor-thin profit margin of your standard API proxy dealer right now. If you're operating under the assumption that you are just a reseller of AI tokens, well, you're trapped in this tiny zone. It's basically a survival margin. It is definitely not a margin that represents a structural growth business, and it's certainly not something venture capital should be pouring money into.
With margins that low, you really got to ask yourself, is simply reselling API access just a dead end? I mean, think about it. If your entire business model is just buying a digital commodity in bulk and trying to flip it for slightly more, you are essentially playing a game of pennies in a market that's evolving at lightning speed. It really forces us to ask, why is this margin so low to begin with, and is there any real way out of this trap for tech entrepreneurs?
So why the squeeze? Well, you're caught in what we can call the dealer's dilemma. That wholesale to retail spread on highly homogeneous AI tokens is literally being crushed from three distinct sides. First, you've got massive upstream model makers constantly slashing their direct-to-consumer prices. Then, you're fighting these brutal race-to-the-bottom price wars with countless other identical middlemen. And finally, developers are smart. They know they can often just bypass you entirely and go straight to the source. It is a brutal place to be.
But here is the massive revelation. The ultimate game changer. A token relay station? It's not some low-value middleman. Structurally speaking, it is a virtual bank. When you actually look at the daily operations of a successful AI relay, they aren't just blindly passing data back and forth. They are aggregating massive pools of user prepayments, they're dynamically distributing requests, they even offer credit lines. These are not the actions of a mere tech dealer, these are the core fundamental functions of a traditional bank.
To really wrap our heads around why AI tokens actually need a bank, we need to look at what they physically represent. Think of tokens as the new energy currency of the AI era. Kind of like power on an electricity grid, tokens are consumed instantly and face severe peak demand rate limits. Like fuel, they vary wildly in quality and cost. 1,000 tokens from a top-tier model versus an open-source model represents a massive price arbitrage opportunity. And finally, like digital traffic, they're billed by the byte. That requires an incredibly complex clearing and settlement layer to track every single fraction of a cent.
So how do we make money off this? Well, it kicks off our first major profit engine. It's a classic banking move called maturity transformation. As a token bank, you aggregate your users' funds to lock in massive, long-term annual token commitments with upstream providers. That alone nets you a 30 to 50% discount. Meanwhile, you turn around and sell those tokens downstream to developers who demand ultimate, pay-as-you-go flexibility. You are quite literally matching long-term assets with short-term liabilities to pocket the massive spread.
Now, watch what happens when you actually apply these traditional banking mechanics. The profit leaps are, well, they're insane. We started at a baseline 15% dealer margin, right? Implement that maturity transformation we just talked about, and boom, your margin instantly doubles to 30%. But that final leap, when you introduce credit creation, you suddenly rocket up to a massive 60% gross margin. Let's unpack exactly how that works.
In a traditional bank, obviously, you create credit. Here, you're giving vetted developers a post-paid token allowance. They build their apps all month long and just settle the bill at the end. Because they get this amazing cash flow flexibility, they are totally happy to pay a premium over the standard prepaid rates. And if they default, you don't need to hire a collection agency, you just flip a switch and turn off their API key. The bad debt ratio is shockingly low, which is exactly why your margin just leaps exponentially.
And then there's smart routing. This is where things get really fun. Intelligent routing acts like this amazing algorithmic dividend, reducing your unit cost to as low as 1/15 of the original price, all while maintaining flawless service quality. It's basically the token bank equivalent of a high-speed proprietary trading desk. A client sends a request, paying for top-tier service. Your algorithm instantly recognizes, hey, this is a simple classification task, and routes it to a much cheaper model that does the job perfectly. You charge the premium price, pay the bargain basement cost, and pocket the massive difference purely through smart algorithms.
Now, if you've ever built an AI app, you know the absolute headache of sudden rate limits or worse, an API outage. Well, a token bank acts as a massive risk pool. It aggregates thousands of bursty clients, smoothing out that erratic demand curve based on the law of large numbers. If one upstream supplier goes down or randomly spikes their prices, the bank instantly shifts the traffic. The end user never even feels a bump. All of this, risk mitigation and routing, it sets the stage for something so much bigger.
When you put all of these mechanics together, you get this beautifully sophisticated 6-part derivative product matrix. It's amazing how perfectly these token bank functions map directly onto traditional high finance. Spread banking is your net interest margin. Smart routing becomes your proprietary trading desk. You can even start offering token futures, letting enterprises lock in token prices a year in advance. You are literally transforming AI compute from a simple consumable good into a fully hedgeable financial commodity.
Because your infrastructure is that robust, you can take it a step further into advanced financialization. You can confidently sell SLA Insurance, service level agreement insurance, to nervous enterprises. You collect those premiums as pure profit because your redundant smart routing makes a real outage almost mathematically impossible. You can even package your bulk purchasing power into yield notes, offering investors an 8 to 15% return. You're effectively operating as a full-scale asset management firm for the AI compute era.
You know, people out there often compare these API aggregators to platforms like GitHub, but honestly, the structure is totally different. GitHub built this massive, slow-moving community mode over 15 long years. A token bank, on the other hand, relies on an incredibly fast data flywheel. The more data you process, the better your routing gets, which lowers your costs and attracts even more scale. But here's the catch. This advantage is fragile. A new breakthrough in AI models can upend your routing strategies overnight.
So to protect that super fragile, high-speed advantage, you absolutely need bulletproof infrastructure. We're talking about a full open platform and clearinghouse architecture. You have to build this from the ground up. A Layer 0 on-chain settlement layer capable of handling microtransactions. A Layer 1 router talking to every model globally. A Layer 2 arbitrage engine constantly hunting for those margins. And finally, your Layer 3 financial products and Layer 4 user dashboards sitting right on top.
When you build this bottom-up infrastructure, you create the ultimate defensible moat. Think about it. You are processing millions of transactions across every model, mapped to every single type of task, at every available price point. You possess a real-time data matrix that absolutely no one else in the world has. You become the absolute center of truth for what AI compute actually costs in real time. That is an unassailable competitive advantage for any tech entrepreneur.
Ultimately, the paradigm shift here is crystal clear. We are no longer talking about a dying, low-margin proxy trap. When you embrace the true nature of this business, you aren't fighting for pennies anymore. You are architecting a high-margin, scalable financial institution, one with over 50% gross margins that just amplifies exponentially in lockstep with the global adoption of AI. It is a total, fundamental reframing of the entire value chain.
But hold on. Before you run off and start building this, we have to address the elephant in the room. You have to answer one absolutely critical question. Are you prepared for the regulators? Because make no mistake, this is a financial business, and it attracts intense financial scrutiny. Cross-border digital currency settlements, credit lines, derivative products, you are walking straight into the crosshairs of global finance. Sure, you can capture those 60% margins, but without robust anti-money laundering frameworks and financial licenses from day one, your high-speed flywheel will shatter the very second regulators take notice. The future of AI compute isn't just code, it's high finance. So the only question left to ask yourself is, are you ready to act like a bank?